We're going to do this together, and my hope is that you can understand a little bit more of how God has just kind of been working in and through the circumstances of their life. So, Steve, we'll make this.
Cathy's right hand is stronger than her left, so I'm going to be doing most of the talking because her voice isn't what it used to be. And she can still quote me with her right hand. How's that? Yes. Okay. So just a quick biography. Cathy was born in North Hollywood. She was the 12th of 13 children.
Whoa.
She was born at home. Doctor came to the house, and she was the last one of the children born at home. Her younger sister, Bernice, was born in Encino Hospital. She's parents were Dutch, came from Holland. They immigrated to the U.S. Just prior to the closing of the ports in Amsterdam, I believe, or Rotterdam, one or the other. And when the Germans closed there, they were like the second or the third last boat out. Her father and mother owned a store in The Hague in Holland, and they felt that they needed to get out of Holland if they could. They saw what was coming, and they kind of laid it on the Lord. They put the store up for sale. Nothing was selling at the time, and if they sold the store, then they were going to be able to come to America. And the store did sell when nothing was selling around them, so they took that as a sign to come to America. They settled in the San Fernando Valley in the North Hollywood area. Most of the time they did build a house in Pacoima, but that was taken by eminent domain to build a junior high school, so they moved back to their house they hadn't parted with in North Hollywood. Cathy and I both grew up in a Christian Reformed denomination. That's for many of you may not know what that is, but the Protestant church during the Reformation was reformed into away from the Catholic Church into the Protestant Church. So that's why the term Reformed is in there. They follow the theology of John Calvin and the truth of the Bible. And we were very happy when David Higgs showed up one day and said he was a Calvinist Baptist. Yeah. So that was real familiar to us. So we attended the Christian Reformed Church. We both grew up in Christian families. And Cathy's first remembrance of coming to faith was at Forest Home in a camp there. Although she grew up in the church and knew the Lord and knew all about Christ and salvation, she hadn't made the personal commitment until that time. Following that, in her high school senior year, she made what in the Reformed Church's public profession of faith, which is to state what basically we do here at baptism at this church, and became a member of the church at that time. We met at Jim DeYoung's wedding. We took an interest in each other. We knew who each other were. My brother had dated her sister. So we knew we both were invited, my brother and I, to Jim DeYoung's wedding because we knew each other through youth group and a common denomination there. And we got to chatting each other up in the foyer, and 2 years later we were married. So we have 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and they're all walking with the Lord. It's quite a blessing to have that in the family. So, kind of brings us to where we're at right now. In the spring and summer of 2017, Cathy started to experience a flopping of her left foot as she walked. Okay. I know what I'm saying. I'm sorry. I'm not used to public speaking, so this is a rare experience for me. About 6 months later, she felt that she couldn't stand on that left foot, couldn't put pressure on it, lift her body weight anymore. So she went and saw the doctor and was referred to physical medicine at Kaiser Panorama City. And through a series of tests, they started ruling out things that it wasn't. And finally, when physical medicine said it must be physical, then she was referred to a neurologist, and the neurologist concluded through her test that it was ALS. So when Cathy got the news, we were sitting there together, she had ALS, she just turned to me and said, she knew it was terminal right away. And her first words were, well, I guess I'm going to see Jesus sooner than I thought. So that was the start of her diagnosis. She had the opportunity to volunteer to get into clinical trials on medicines that had gone through phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3 trials. She decided to participate in that, so we've been going down to UC Irvine for the last couple of years, meeting and taking medications that were part of the trial process. You don't know in the trial whether you're going to get a placebo or the actual medicine. So things were going along real well because the doctors that saw her over that period of time said you have a real slow rate of decline compared to most of the patients that they see, until a couple of months ago. We figured out that she had been receiving the placebo on both studies. And at the end of a study 2 months ago, that was a 1.5-year study, they offered her the real medicine, as they call it, open label. And then the rate of decline started to increase. And after 2 months, her liver enzyme level went up 5 times normal. So Cathy was looking for a sign from God. A sign from God that what to do next. We concluded that this was doing her more harm than good. Whatever it was, it just wasn't working. So in talking with the neurologist, came to the conclusion that God was leading us to get out of the study at that point and stop the medication. So it's been 2 weeks now since that's happened. And I see a little improvement in her condition. But they said for the liver enzyme level to get back to normal after being on the medication would take you at least a 2-month period of time. So she's on blood draws every 3 days or so, twice a week. And they're going to continue to monitor that and see if they can get her enzyme level back to what it was when it was normal. So where are we in all of this as far as our faith and so on? We've never doubted that God was allowing this to happen. We never were angry about it or cross about it or in despair about it. We have a good knowledge of the Bible. We spend a lot of time in Bible study fellowship. If you're familiar with that, it's like a 30-week study every year. We were both group leaders in discussion of that, and really felt that that really prepared us for this, to handle this. So we have hope, and the doctors recognize that in us when we go to talk to them, that we're not in despair, and that where we're headed is much better than where we've been. And So it's drawn us closer, the illness has. My role in all this now is I'm her caretaker, and I've been that since the day that she was diagnosed. We've not had any real outside help come in.
And he's a great one.
So I'm learning new skills. I'm the chief cook, bottle washer. There's a few things that Cathy still can do, and it's easy to be around her. She always has a positive attitude. She doesn't get down too much. We've just drawn closer together as a result of dealing with this illness. So it's just the travel that we're making together. So, and closer to the Lord, yes. I guess that's most of what we have to say. That's kind of currently where we're at. We, from the beginning, knew that God had blessings for us every day, regardless of this disease. So we look for them.
Sometimes hearing someone else's story kind of puts some things in perspective for yourself, doesn't it? And I think if Cathy could underscore the one thing she said about, and he's a good one, it's probably about the most understated thing I've heard tonight. Because I'm watching Steve, I really am. I'm watching what it means to be somebody totally devoted, and to do it with a sense of really of joy. And the church needs that. We all need that. We need to feel that life doesn't stop with a diagnosis. It actually, in many cases, begins with one. And knowing that they do have hope, knowing that they do have a path that's laid before them, just as David said, you know, you lead me in paths of righteousness, in paths that lead to an eternity. And whether or not the fact that Cathy sees Jesus before we do, we all will see Jesus. And for Steve to help her in that process is one thing, but Cathy's helping Steve in that process too. So that means life still has meaning, it has purpose, it has impact. And to watch the two of you continue to strive to be a part here, the best that you can, is something that you and I should not take for granted, folks. This is something very special that God gives us as a gift, to be able to say, life is everything that you make it, no matter what their circumstance is. And these two are making it for the glory of God. Would you thank him again for being here today? Deal with is not the end all. And whether or not it's better or worse or whatever, God knew I needed you in my life. So I'm glad that you're still here. Thank you for continuing to come. Because I knew she said to me, I'm not going to probably be in choir anymore. And I said, you know, whether you sing or not, you're part of this family, and I want you here. If you feel up to coming, I want you here. And she hasn't stopped coming.